Hey, welcome back to Views on Brews. I am Brendan, and this is going to be part 3 of my in-depth look at how to brew a black IPA. To be honest, it could be absolutely any beer. This is a real in-depth tutorial of how to actually brew, all the things you need to be thinking about before brewing, from your planning to your research to recipe formulation. And today we're going to have a closer look at milling your grain, setting up the night before, and checking your equipment and checking your ingredients and getting absolutely everything ready, all set up for your brew day. So that's what's going to be coming up next. If you're enjoying or if you've learned anything from these videos, please do give me a like and a subscribe. It'd be really appreciated. I'm trying to give as much information as I can cram in. It's not one of those drive-by brew day videos. I really want to go into great detail about absolutely every aspect of a really successful brew. After brewing multiple times, one thing I've worked out is that you really do need to get yourself together a checklist of all of the equipment that you have. There's so many little bits and fiddly pieces. Out in my brew shed, I have 2 boxes where I put all of those little bits so that they're always in the same place every time I go looking for them. I've brought it all in here today, but this is only half of the stuff you need. You're going to need things like Jubilee clips. Check that all of your batteries are working in your thermometers and your weighing scales. You're going to need separate buckets, and you're going to need to give things a thorough clean. Exposed brewing elements will definitely need to be cleaned, as they get a lot of calcification on the top of them, a lot of carbonates, and that will definitely burn your beer if you use that. So that's getting a clean, as are my hop socks, my little micron bags, and any little fiddly bits where bacteria can get in. So my brewing kettle tap is going to go in, and I'm going to clean all of these things up, but I'm not doing it on brew day. I'm doing it the day before or a couple of days before, and just check and make sure that absolutely every element of my brewing equipment is cleaned. And I don't mean sanitized, I actually mean cleaned, because you can't sanitize dirty equipment. So just spraying Star San on isn't going to do any good. These things actually have to be kept clean every time, and that will save your beer sometimes. If you aren't using stainless steel to brew in, give your boiler a really good scrub down. Look at all that dirty water I got out of there, but it's really hard. It kind of, all the tannins stick to the side, and you can quickly get used to dirty equipment if you allow it to be the norm. But what it does is it really impacts the flavor and the quality of your end beer, which is a real shame. So give all that a really good clean down. Milling your own malt isn't actually necessary at all, but by doing so you get full control over the crush of your grain and what grains you want to be milled together. That's important for me, especially in this brew, because I have high bicarbonate water. It's bottled water that I bought from a supermarket, and I really want to reduce the pH of that water in my mash. So by milling my darker malts, which have a high acidity to them, milling them with the pale malt together will help to reduce my brewing water in the mash down to the perfect range of 5.2 to 5.6. We'll see later on, do I achieve that? But that's my plan, and hopefully I won't take any of the harsh astringency through from those darker malts. Some people may choose to mill them separately and then put the darker malts into their mash 15 minutes before the end of the mash to extract a little bit of the flavor, all of the color, and none of that harsh astringency. But it's just a personal choice. Milling the malt here is quite good fun as well. Try to set the rollers so that they are a credit card width apart and only crack the grains rather than crush them to a fine powder. If you crush them too fine, you're going to end up with a stuck mash. So I'm just doing enough here to crack open the grains and allow those carbohydrates to be converted into fermentable sugars during the mash. One last thing, I'm using a power drill to mill it really fast. Don't forget to charge the battery before you go to mill your grain. Okay, sanitizing your equipment is absolutely essential. I like to have a bucket specifically for my sanitizer. I'm using StarSan. It's a proprietary sanitizer. It's just 1.5 milliliters per liter of water. Take off the right cap, squeeze the bottle until you get it up to the measurement. I'm using 15 mils in 10 liters of water. In my sanitizer bucket, I do this a day before brew day. I can put all my bits and pieces in there that I don't want to lose, like my bubbler, the grommets, anything that's going to come into contact with the beer after I start cooling it down after boiling it. Keep a lid on the bucket, and this water should be absolutely fine for kegging or bottling day. I also use a squeezy bottle filled with some of this sanitized water just for ease of use, and I keep that handy and the bucket nearby as well. So all that remains now is to set up all of this equipment wherever it is you're brewing. For me, that's going to be in the kitchen, so I'm going to set up everything now and have it ready for the morning, and this is how it should look. Or something a little bit tidier perhaps. I've got all these towels down to catch up any brewing liquor just to make it a bit more of a tidy operation. Mash tun is there. My kettle is on a wooden chopping board so I don't burn the table. I've got everything laid out very close to me. My scales, my glass Pyrex jar which I'm going to use for my yeast. Behind my brewing kettle, I've got my Worts chiller with my Jubilee clip all ready for the hose attachment in the morning. I've got my spray bottle, my bottled water. Everything is in the exact place that I need it for the morning. My malt is to the side there. All that remains for me to do now is have one quick last check to make sure that I've not forgotten anything. You can see I've put my strike water into the brewing kettle. This is actually really important, especially if you're using tap water that can contain chlorine from your water supply. You'll need a half a Camden tablet in there and the lid off overnight so all of that chlorine can evaporate away. Now I'm ready, now I'm set. All that's left to do is go to bed and get up and brew. So that's everything set up now for brew day. For the eagle-eyed of you out there, you will have noticed on my windowsill there's a chicken, and resting up against that is a red sachet of US 05 yeast. That's what I'm going to be using. I take it out the night before because I want it to acclimatize to the environment, so I'm not taking yeast out and putting it in a warmer environment. Taking care of your yeast, even if it is just dried yeast and not liquid yeast, is a really good way of setting your fermentation up for success. But that's absolutely everything, I think. There's nothing left to do but brew. So join me in part 4 where we kick this brew day off.